Alright, the following video will be some very basic instructions on how to use the Beckman Tech Model 350 multimeter. It measures both AC and DC, volts and amps, as well as ohms, which are for resistance. The first thing we'll check is power coming out of the wall before we test our power supply. Have our wall plug here, and ever so gently, as not to be electrocuted, we're gonna plug the power into the top left and the ground into the top right. Alright, you see we have 120 volts of alternating current, AC. The dial here is pretty much a sensitivity dial. It'll see how the decimal place was added instead of it rounding up to 120. If you go down too far, it'll say OL, which is overload, which happens when your unit of measure is lower than what's coming in, which would be, standard wall power. It's 120 volts. So we know that that's good. Now, what a computer power supply does is changes the voltage that comes out of your house or wall into DC, which is direct current, which is what a computer operates off. So let's get it hooked up here. It's got a little power toggle switch that you'd actually see in the computer. Alright, I don't know if you can hear it, but the fan's going now. Okay. So since the computer runs off of DC, we want to switch over because the box is now changing that AC current to DC. The connector from the motherboard has the red and then some grounds. So again, ever so gently, we will plug the red into the red and the black into a black. And this shows that we have 5.2 volts of DC, which is direct current. See, it just changes our unit of measure. If we go down too low, see, we'll get that OL for overload again. Alright. Some of these other connectors don't have the nice little round inputs. Let's clear some of this mess out of here. See, it's got a square, so we can test that. And it still shows 5.2, 5.1, 5.2. We test it that way. So it looks like this power supply is good. See, there's the output voltages and whatnot. Alright, there's some other things you can test with this, like here's an old capacitor from one of those Pentium 1 motherboards. It's probably 20 years old, and if I put the leads to it, let's see, you can see that it still has a charge, even though it's been sitting there without power to it for years and years and years. Some other things would be one of these CMOS batteries. Simple old, came out of the same Pentium 1 motherboard. But if I put the leads to the positive and negative sides of it, let's see I get overload. If I click this up, there you go. You can see that this battery has almost 3 volts of DC power to it. Alright, so ohms down here at the bottom. Let's see if we can zoom in on that a little bit. Ohms is a measure of resistance. So to easily demonstrate that, I have a resistor here, which you can't really see too much, but I have these little color-coded bands on them, and there's a chart that you can figure out how much resistance each resistor has just by using the band. So if we put the resistor between the 2 leads, you see that we have right at 2 ohms resistance. Well, I have 2 of these same resistors, so I'm going to twist them together, and then when I test it again, I have come on.